What did you make of some of the refereeing decisions?
It's just not good enough. Referees are just not good enough. Force officials are just not good enough. It's the bottom line. VAR today, I think did I see that right? That 3 people at the VAR from South America in a match like this. I think so. I saw this before the match. I might be, but if this is what I saw, if this is correct, it's just VAR overturns.
Egypt is where the accusations trace back to, specifically July 7th. Argentina's round of 16 match. Egypt led 2-0, and in the second half, midfielder Mostafa Zico scored what would have made it 3-0, only for VAR to overturn the goal, ruling that a foul had happened about 25 seconds earlier in the build-up. What followed was brutal for Egypt. Argentina scored 3 unanswered goals in the final 14 minutes and walked away with a 3-2 win. Egypt's coach, Hossam Hassan, stopped short of the word rigged in his press conference, though he said plainly that his team hadn't been shown fairness. Zico wasn't nearly as careful. He called it a rigged tournament outright, and Egypt's federation backed that up with action, not just quotes, filing a formal complaint with FIFA that demanded the referee's removal and a full investigation into what they called double standards. That's the anchor incident. Everything else either builds on it or gets read through it. Days later, FIFA handed down the officiating crew for France's quarterfinal against Morocco, and all 5 officials, head referee down to reserve assistant, turn out to be Argentine. It marked the first match of the entire tournament worked by officials from a single country, and the optics landed hard because France was widely seen as Argentina's most likely final opponent if both kept winning. Coaches on both sides, Deschamps for France and his Moroccan counterpart, waved off the concern publicly. France won that match and moved on, then lost to Spain in the semi-final, which meant the France-Argentina final the assignment supposedly threatened never actually happened. The Switzerland quarterfinal came next, and here's where it gets messy. Argentina's Leandro Paredes picked up a yellow card for a challenge on Breel Embolo. VAR stepped in, ruled that Embolo had simulated the contact, and turned it into a red card instead. Switzerland played the rest of the match a man down and lost in extra time. No formal complaint followed from the Swiss Federation this time, but online, the reaction landed in exactly the same place the Egypt reaction had. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani was mid-announcement about a bus service initiative when he said, almost as an aside, that people would have more time to agree with a friend that Egypt got robbed. That quote is confirmed by multiple outlets, and it's worth being honest about what it actually is, an offhand remark from a politician at an unrelated press event, not a ruling from any football body. Still, it's a big part of why this story broke out of soccer media and into general news. This is where the conversation is supposed to shift from gut feeling to hard evidence. Brennan Klein, a researcher at Northeastern University, tracked VAR interventions per 100 fouls across the tournament through the knockout rounds, and Argentina landed second highest in favorable calls, at 6.7, trailing only co-host Mexico's 7.8. Through the round of 16, not a single VAR call had gone against Argentina, while Croatia and Iran sat at the opposite end, absorbing the most unfavorable reviews. Here's the part that usually gets dropped when this stat makes the rounds online. Klein himself said it isn't proof of bias. His actual explanation was that Argentina and Mexico topped the list because referees on the field missed fouls that VAR later caught and corrected, which is a different claim entirely from the system being rigged in their favor. He acknowledged there's a short hop from that data to a bias accusation, but the data on its own doesn't make that leap. So the number is real, and the conclusion people keep drawing from it just isn't the one the man who built it is willing to draw. This is where the conversation is supposed to shift from gut feeling to hard evidence. Brennan Klein, a researcher at Northeastern University, tracked VAR interventions per 100 fouls across the tournament through the knockout rounds, and Argentina landed second highest in favorable calls, at 6.7, trailing only co-host Mexico's 7.8. Through the round of 16, not a single VAR call had gone against Argentina, while Croatia and Iran sat at the opposite end, absorbing the most unfavorable reviews. Here's the part that usually gets dropped when this stat makes the rounds online. Klein himself said it isn't proof of bias. His actual explanation was that Argentina and Mexico topped the list because referees on the field missed fouls that VAR later caught and corrected, which is a different claim entirely from the system being rigged in their favor. He acknowledged there's a short hop from that data to a bias accusation, but the data on its own doesn't make that leap. So the number is real, and the conclusion people keep drawing from it just isn't the one the man who built it is willing to draw. Argentina's Football Federation is reportedly under FBI scrutiny, and that story broke through the Argentine paper La Nación, which reported federal agents were taking testimony about somewhere between $260 and $300 million in AFA-linked funds that moved through U.S. banks by way of a Florida company. AFA President Claudio Tapia was reportedly questioned, and other outlets have since done their own reporting to back the story up. But precision matters here too. No charges have been filed. The FBI hasn't confirmed the investigation on record, and none of it touches Argentina's eligibility in the tournament. What you're looking at is a financial story that happens to be unfolding during a World Cup run, not evidence about the run itself. Pierluigi Collina, FIFA's chief refereeing officer, defended the Egypt decision head-on, arguing that a foul is a foul whether or not it looks obvious from the stands, and that VAR is allowed to step in even when the referee missed it live. Pressed on the broader accusations, his response was blunt. Nobody can claim FIFA's refereeing can be influenced by anyone. He also warned that unfounded corruption claims can put threats on officials and their families, which is worth sitting with even as a denial from the accused side. Ismail El Fath worked the July 15th match between Argentina and England, becoming the first American to referee a World Cup semifinal, and some media had already flagged him as a favorable name for Argentina before kickoff, given the Virgentina narrative swirling around the tournament. What actually happened on the pitch was one yellow card apiece before halftime and no real officiating controversy afterward. Argentina came back to win 2-1 on 2 late goals, and if you're hunting for the next data point in a pattern, this match just doesn't offer one. Egypt's complaint is real. The VAR numbers are real too, and Argentina does sit near the top of that list, but the person who built the data is explicit that it doesn't prove bias. The all-Argentine referee crew happened exactly as described, yet the France final it supposedly guarded against never materialized. The FBI investigation is grounded in real reporting, but it's a money story, not a match-fixing one, and nobody has been charged with anything. Collina's denials sit on the record as well, for whatever a denial from the accused party is worth to you personally. Confirmed rigging, none of this adds up to. What it does explain is why the accusation caught fire in the first place. A defending champion getting the benefit of the doubt on close call after close call, at the most profitable tournament the sport has ever run, is exactly the kind of thing that makes people start asking questions, whether or not those questions end up with answers. Sunday decides the rest of it, when Argentina faces Spain for the title. Judging by the semifinal, this one might just come down to football.